So many eyeshadow palettes, so little time. I'm sharing with you my favorite eyeshadow palettes in 3, 2, 1. Hey, it's Amanda. Welcome back to my channel. But if it's your first time here and you enjoy beauty hauls, unboxing, reviews, first impressions, and more, you've come to the right channel to hit subscribe for new videos weekly. This is actually a requested video from you guys, sharing with you my top favorite eyeshadow palettes. There is no particular order with these palettes. These are just some of my favorite palettes that I've ever tried and like to gravitate towards. So if you're interested in what my favorite eyeshadow palettes are, just keep on watching. Eyeshadow was probably like my first favorite makeup product when I first started using makeup way back when, and I just love it. I don't know, there's just something fun about eyeshadow palettes. I get very drawn to them. I have a problem. I keep saying I have so much eyeshadow palettes, I don't need more, but I keep getting more. Some of these palettes are fairly newer to me, some of them are older to me. Some of these I have shown on camera and some off camera. We got a lot going on here. I will do some swatches on my arm. There's nothing on my arm, there's nothing on my fingers, it's just bare arm, bare fingers. To kick off this video, the first palette is the Just Peachy Mattes palette by Too Faced Cosmetics, and this is the inside of the palette. My type of eyeshadow palette, definitely on the warmer side, and this palette is just a beautiful, warm, neutral palette. Too Faced's chocolate bar palette used to be my favorite palette. Once I bought this palette, it like dethroned the chocolate palette because like I just started using this more and more. I love the shades in this palette. It's a very wearable palette, but there is one thing, because like I am a huge shimmer person, but there are no shimmers in here. It's all mattes. That's where like a Stila glitter cream eyeshadow could come in handy. I've created so many fun looks with this palette and it never has disappointed me. There are some of the shades on my finger. The shades are definitely more on the drier side than the creamy side. You have pigment all the way from the top and the bottom of the swatch, and like these shades right here could just easily create a look. And there's still pigment on my fingers, so you know that the staying power is gonna be great. I think this is one of like Too Faced's best palettes. Just like the formula in it was just so good. Some Too Faced palettes have been hit or miss. I noticed like a difference with some of their holiday collections when they have palettes. That formula is different from this formula, the chocolate bar formula. I have not tried the White Peach palette. It's a cooler palette. I haven't been as drawn to it, but I have definitely considered purchasing it just to see how well it compares to this palette. Next we have the Lime Crime Venus XL2 palette, and this is what the inside looks like. This palette I almost passed up on buying because the color story, it's very unique. Colors that I know I wouldn't necessarily be drawn to. Lime Crime's formula is so good. Definitely has a lot more kickback and fallout than some other palettes. That doesn't really bother me because not like it sprinkles into my other shades, which is good. I did a dedicated video of testing it out and I am obsessed. Definitely love the pink shades. Like Eve is probably my favorite shade, but then there's like fun, unique shades like Ivy and Obscure. Phoenix is this very beautiful orange, which orange? Who am I? They're just super creamy, super blendable, just gorgeous. Very fun shades. Obscure is very, very different. Using MAC Fix has definitely helped and made that shade pop. You would think I would have chose maybe the XL1 palette, but that one's very warm. As I mentioned, I'm drawn to very warm palettes and I get a lot of use out of them, but I had to choose something a little bit more unique. This palette has challenged me to get out of my comfort zone because of how different the shades are. Classical is like the only shade I'm used to in a warm palette. I definitely haven't created the same look twice before. This palette is closer to like the $60 range, but I think you get a nice variety of shades. I think the pan size is decent. For the formula, I think it's worth it. It's definitely more of a splurge buy. Next we have the Violet Voss Like a Boss Pro eyeshadow palette, and this is what the inside looks like. Now don't get me wrong, I love my Holy Grail palette. Definitely one of my favorite Violet Voss palettes. I see a common theme happening in this video. Once again, it's a very warm palette. This is a warm palette, but the bottom two rows, they're just fun, grungy shades, and that's what drew me to purchasing this palette. I'm like, think I have these in my Holy Grail palette, but girl crush, adulting, smart AF, royal. Like, it doesn't even look like I've touched this palette that much, but when I first got it, I did. Like, I just wanted to put the shade royal everywhere. It was my favorite, and it still is today. If you haven't tried Violet Voss palettes yet, you need to. Like, hello, look at how creamy those are. Their eyeshadows blend super nice. Like, I haven't run into any issues. They just released a few more palettes and I'm like, I need them all. Like, a cut crease with these shades would be so much fun. Never thought I would be into like grungier shades, because like normally I just do very neutral looks, but I love palettes like these that challenge you and push you. That's what Like a Boss did for me, because I can still play safe with my warm shades, but if I'm feeling adventurous, I have the grungier shades. This palette is closer to $45, so I definitely think that this is a good bang for your buck. You get 20 shades, nice pan sizes, very good blendable formulas for both the mattes and the shimmers. If your Sephora carries Violet Voss, definitely do some swatches and I hope you love it as much as I do. Next we have the Tartelette Toasted palette by Tarte, and this is what the inside looks like. Originally I was not going to purchase this palette because the Urban Decay Naked Heat palette launched, I think, couple months before this one did, and I'm like, I have so many warm palettes that I just don't need it. But at my wedding rehearsal dinner, I don't know, there was just something that sparked in me that I thought saying I'm toasted was just really funny. Literally said that all night. It became a running joke, and when we were on our honeymoon, it was during the Sephora VIB Rouge sale where you get your 20% off, and I kept seeing this palette as I was circling the Sephora, and I just kept laughing that it was called Toasted. It was kind of an impulse buy because I was like, it's a good joke, memorable, yeah. And then I actually used the palette. The Tartelette formulas are really good. I have the Tartelette 1 and the 2. This by far is Tarte's best formula, is for their Tartelette palettes. Any day now I'm gonna hit Pan on Flame. Definitely my favorite shade. And when I got this palette, I used it non-stop. Like, I used it for like the remainder of my honeymoon. So this palette holds a place in my heart, and they're just super blendable and I'm obsessed. I would say it's a pretty good starter palette because it is a very neutral palette on the warmer side. So if you're starting out with eyeshadow, definitely look into this one. I know it's more of a splurge because it is a smaller palette. You only get 12 shades for about $45. Look at those swatches. They were just so creamy. If you're just a lover of neutrals and warm palettes like me, I think it would be a great staple in your collection. I know I get a lot of use out of this palette. Up next, we have the Norvina Anastasia Beverly Hills palette, and this is what the inside looks like. It was very hard for me to choose Sultry or Norvina as my favorite ABH palette because I use Sultry so much. It's a very neutral palette, but it also has like a good balance of cool shades as well. But Norvina, purples are just my favorite. When I first got this palette, I could not stop using the shimmers. Like, I mean, it's a mess up here, but it's just so good. I know for some people, ABH can be a very hit or miss for them. A lot of people don't like it because of the fallout. It doesn't bother me. I know it kind of goes everywhere, but the shimmer payoff is so good. A couple of my more recent videos, you guys were like, oh, I love your eyes, I love your eyes. It was just one of the shades from the Sultry palette that I just put on my eyelid. Just gorgeous. Oh, I'm a sucker for purples. I always get excited when ABH announces that they are launching another palette because I'm always curious what are the shimmers gonna be. And I have the Riviera palette and I still haven't used it yet. That's what makes videos like this so hard to do because you're just like, all right, right now, this is the palette. But from a year now, with all the eyeshadow palettes, because we're in June, who knows, like within a year, what eyeshadow palettes are gonna be released. Dun, dun, dun. Next we have the Morphe Jaclyn Hill palette, and this is what the inside looks like. I know there's a lot of controversy around Jaclyn Hill right now, but I still love this palette. It is one I gravitate towards all the time. When she first announced it, I was like, this palette is boring the house. When I looked at it a little bit closer, this bottom row is very unique. Not just because of the 4 color shades that there are, but it also allows you to create like a nice smoky, cooler look as well. I love Morphe palettes because you get 35 shades at a good price. The Jaclyn Hill palette is a little bit more expensive. I get so much use out of all their 35 palettes. The pan sizes are great, the price point is on point, and the variety of shades is usually pretty good. And the formula is typically pretty good. Creamy, pigmented, payoff is there. These are some of my all-time favorite palettes, especially if you're looking for an affordable option. Do you see that color? It is popping. That's like Tiffany blue. Gorgeous. Gorgeous. I haven't talked about my thoughts on the lipsticks because I didn't buy the lipsticks. There was something in my gut that said don't buy these lipsticks, even though I love lipsticks and They were nudes. I'm on the fence about nude lipstick. Like, it's one of those, like, I need to swatch it before I buy it. Do I have a lot of thoughts about it? Yes. I'm a former chemist. I'm a project manager for drug development. Things are done a little differently than like cosmetic manufacturing, but I'm sure there's a lot of similarities. Since I don't have the products in my possession or have tested them myself, I just haven't said anything. Next, we have the Aftercake palette by Juvia's Place, and this is what the inside looks like. Again, another brand that has a lot of controversy around it right now. I don't really know the whole story of it, but when I first started my YouTube, this palette was like my go-to palette. I have my neutral shades right here. Then I also have pops of color. Juvia's is one of my favorite formulas I think I've used. I was at Ulta with Catherine one time. She literally dabbed her finger on the pan, swatched it on her arm, and she was like, oh my gosh, this is so good. And I was like, yes. We go back to Ulta months later, and she got one of their palettes, and I was so excited for her because she was like, do I get the Colourpop or do I get the Juvia's? I'm like, don't put me in that position because I love Colourpop, but the Juvia's palette, she was looking at the pan sizes were bigger, and I think she was still stuck on that formula. She'll probably get the Colourpop one down the line. Yes. So I haven't used that yellow shade before. I'm looking at it and I'm like, let's look at these three for a moment. Do you see this blue right here? Fifi and Kofi are some of my favorite shades just to slap on your eye. Add some eyeliner, add some mascara, call it a day. Next, we have the LA Girl Hot Heat palette, and this is what the inside looks like. I don't know if this video has gone up yet on my channel, but I did do a dedicated video on this palette, and I have been reaching for it non-stop. I am blown away with whatever LA Girl formulated because it is not like their previous palettes at all. I was a little hesitant on buying the Hot Heat palettes. Their old formula was very chalky and really hard to blend. This is a whole new workup in the lab. This one I use more than their other Hot Heat palette. I'm very drawn to this blue and this purple right here. I have made so many fun looks with this palette. I think you can also get like some neutral use and some smoky eye and then your colors. I think doing a palette bingo would be a lot of fun. The pigments in here are so good. Oh my gosh. What? I know. LA Girl who? I have been living for this palette. Oh! These 4 shades would make such a good look. Definitely recommend checking these out. It is a drugstore brand. The pan sizes are huge. I think this palette is only $15 and I'm like, is that a scam? I wasn't expecting it to be that good. Next we have the Kathleen Light Colourpop Collab Dream Street palette, and this is what the palette looks like. It doesn't even look like I've touched this palette, but I have used it a few times. Colourpop palettes are just so good, so affordable. I love how they're in Ulta, and I need more of those 9-pan palettes. There's a good variety of shimmers, matte, and pops of blue. I never swatched this palette before, so now I'm making a mess, but guys, the pigment on my fingers, do you see those? Do you see that? Colourpop did that. So some of that blue eyeshadow got into this pan. You can see it like right there. Part of that swatch is kind of that color. This would be a fun look right here. Maybe that's what I'm like foreshadowing myself to do. Like swatch some shades, make a look out of it. Let me know what your favorite Colourpop eyeshadow palette is. They have a lot. I think they just released like a California Summer Loving palette and I'm like, I need that one too. I need all the Colourpop. Okay, so my ring finger is just gonna be stained of blue eyeshadow. It's a new trend. Up next we have the A2O Immerse palette, and this is what the palette looks like. I haven't shopped on Shop Miss A before, but I did receive this for Christmas last year. When I swatched this palette, I was like, what is this? Creamy matte, creamy shimmer. Now, I think this palette is like $10, $15. I didn't even realize it was from Shop Miss A until I was browsing their site one day. Do you see those shades? You love colorful looks. I highly recommend this palette. Wait for it. You see that? Yeah. I love that grungy purpley gray shimmer right there. And look at all that pigment still on my fingers. This palette doesn't want to budge at all. My fingers are staying.
To be continued.
So if my hair is a little messed up and my makeup is a little out of whack on this eye, it's because we saw Toy Story 4. Again, love it. I'm a huge fan of the Toy Story series. I have mixed feelings about number 4, and yes, I cried. I'm a whip. I'm a fiery Aries, but I do have like that sensitive side. If you saw Toy Story 4, let me know what your thoughts were. Anyway, moving back, I have 4 palettes left. Let's count down the final 4. Next, we have the e.l.f. Mad for Matte Jewel Pop palette. I used this palette in my doing a full face of e.l.f. makeup, and I'm obsessed. It's a nice palette on the go. Once again, a palette without shimmers. I love the colors. Super, super blendable. You can also get some neutral looks out of it as well. It has been a favorite of mine since I've tested it. I just love how creamy these mattes are. So good. e.l.f. has these bigger palettes at Target, and I'm like eyeing them. There's so much new stuff at Target. I can't even believe it. There's Makeup Obsessions, which I just bought some products to test out soon, and Color Story. There's like 5 palettes of those. Target is really stepping up their game. And they have all of this e.l.f. makeup. What? These are e.l.f. shadows. I really love seeing e.l.f. come a long way. They were some of the first eyeshadows I have ever used before. My aunt used to sell e.l.f. She was like an e.l.f. consultant. Kind of like how Mary Kay is. I just remember getting like this big case of makeup that had like all of e.l.f.'s products, and I thought it was really cool with the case. So that was like my first big set of makeup. So e.l.f. holds a special place in my heart. I also have this palette, which I have not used yet, but I plan on using it in a full face of using makeup from Target. Stay tuned for that as well. There's a lot happening. Like if you could see my vanity right now, you'd be like, girl. I keep reorganizing it too. Another recent favorite is the NYX Ultimate Warm Neutrals palette. This little guy, I think is like $18. So good. Some of these shades right in here are almost like dupes for the Huda Beauty Mauves palette. This is really good for travel. I get a lot of use out of it since I did my full face of NYX makeup. I just think the shades are really good quality. So much good versatile use. You know, if you're going out on a date, you're going to work, you're going to class, gonna go do errands, and you just want something simple, this palette. And there are the swatches. Super creamy mattes and shimmers. So that one is a transition shade. It is there. I love NYX. NYX is a great drugstore brand. So many good options, not for just eyeshadow, but other great products. Ulta has that 20% off your purchase, includes prestige, and I'm just like, there's so many items like on my wish list that I really just want to add. Like, let me know if you got anything during the 20% off. Would love to know what you got, and do I need to add to my wish list? I saw that Kula, I think that was the brand, has a setting spray with SPF in it too. Like it was featured in a FabFitFun, I think. I'm like, I want FabFitFun just for that. Revolutionary that there's SPF in it because it's the last step. We don't want skin cancer. We have the Urban Decay Border Run palette, and this is what the inside looks like. I know, it looks like I haven't even touched this palette, but I have dipped my brush in it. There's just so many palettes. I think, my opinion, this is the best Urban Decay palette that they have released to date. The pan size is awesome. The Naked One palette was my first palette I bought, and there's just something about like the skinny long pans that I just wasn't a fan of. I like the squares. I just think it's easy just to rub your brush in. This also has a good balance of neutrals and colors. And I feel like Urban Decay palettes are either very neutral or very colorful, and this one is a good balance. I think the formula in this and the Game of Thrones palette were my favorite. I just felt like the shades are really blendable, and like the pigment payoff was the best. So creamy, and that's what some of the shades look like. I don't know why I keep getting attracted to like transition shades to swatch. That's what the shades look like. I thought the price range was pretty fair for it. I think it was just at $50. So you get 21 shades, whereas like the Naked palettes were like $55 back in the day. And you only got like 12 shades. I know they came out with like the mini palettes, like mini Border Runs, but they should do like a Born to Run palette volume 2. Like that should be a series. Keep it in this style, this formula, and this price. I think they would really be be onto something. I almost chose the Naked Cherry palette. That one's so good, but I've already featured so many warm palettes in this and I didn't want to bore y'all with just warm palettes. To conclude this video, I'm so excited. This is probably one of my favorite palettes ever, and I don't think I've ever used it on camera, and I'm sorry to be hiding this from y'all. I highly recommend this palette and the other palettes in the family of this brand. Drum roll, please. We have the Dominique Cosmetics Latte palette, and this is what the palette looks like. I said in another video that Kristen Dominique is one of my favorite larger YouTubers of all time. When she came out with her own line, I was pumped. I remember seeing this palette. I'm already a coffee fanatic. I was nerding out over this. I'm like, this is so cute. Caters to very neutral, but you can also add pops of color. Now her formula, oh my gosh. You can definitely tell that she put a lot of time and effort creating her first palette because the formula is impeccable. There is a little bit of fallout, nothing unusual. Do you see those shades? Do you see them? The blue shade, it kind of fades away towards the end of the tail, and I do recognize it, but it's still on my finger. It's a very workable, darker shade. Pigment is still there. It's gonna work with you instead of against you. I just picked up the Rustic Glam palette, and I can't wait to do a dedicated video on that. When you look at the reviews on Sephora's website, it has pretty much a 5-star rating. Every time she has an eyeshadow palette launch, I am like, yes. She can just show the packaging, and I'm just like, yes. Her liquid lipstick formula was also really good. We got a gloss and BOXYCHARM, like everything is on point. Check out your local Ultas and Sephora's for these palettes. Swatch them. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys have any of these palettes? Are some of these your cult favorites too? And also, if you have different cult favorites, let me know what those are. Maybe I'm missing out. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe before you leave, and I'll see you in the next video.